Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're digging into a really interesting piece of research that one of you listeners actually pointed out to us. It's called Bahrain's AI Landscape in March 2025, Pioneering the Future of Innovation in the Gulf. And it's from University 365. You were curious about Bahrain's growing role in, well, the whole AI space, and honestly, so were we. So our mission today is to pull out the key insights, the really important stuff, those aha moments. We want to understand what this boom in Bahrain means, for the Gulf region, maybe even beyond. We'll touch on Bahrain's journey from just using AI to actually creating it, what the
Yeah.
government's doing, how businesses are involved, education, even some specific examples of AI in action. And to help us navigate all this, we're joined by a professor from University 365, an expert on this very report. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's a fascinating topic.
Great. So let's kick things off with the foundation. The report keeps coming back to Bahrain's Vision 2030. Could you maybe explain how that bigger strategy kind of paved the way for all this tech stuff we're seeing now?
Absolutely. Vision 2030 was, well, it was really the starting gun, wasn't it? A huge plan for Bahrain to, move its economy beyond just oil and really embrace technology. And as this University 365 report shows, by March 2025, AI isn't just some future idea anymore. It's like a cornerstone of their whole economic strategy. But it's important to get that this didn't happen overnight.
Right. It sounds like it took time, a sustained effort.
Exactly. Years of deliberate steps. The report talks about investing in the right tech infrastructure, carefully creating policies to support AI, building up the institutions needed. That long-term thinking, that strategic planning, that's really key to understanding why Bahrain's becoming such a noticeable player in the Gulf tech scene now.
Okay, so Vision 2030 laid the groundwork, but how did they make the jump from just, say, adopting AI like automation stuff we see everywhere to actually innovating, becoming a source of new AI? What did that shift look like?
That's a great question, and it's really where the story gets interesting. Initially, yeah, like lots of places, Bahrain was focused on bringing in existing AI tools, automate processes, analyze data better, standard stuff. But the University 365 report really flags this big shift. By 2025, Bahrain isn't just a consumer of AI, it's becoming an active creator, shaping AI's future by developing its own stuff.
Can you give us a concrete example, something that really shows that change?
Sure, the report points straight to El Muntar. That's Bahrain's first nanosatellite that was designed and built locally.
Okay.
What's really key here for understanding this shift is that it uses AI on board for real-time image analysis. So it's not just buying a satellite off the shelf. It's Bahraini engineers, Bahraini scientists building the AI, putting it into this advanced tech. It's that move from just using to, well, creating.
That's a really clear example. Shows a real step up in their tech abilities. Now, obviously, the government's heavily involved. What are they doing specifically to, push this AI growth?
Oh, the government's commitment is very clear. The report details several big moves. A key one in March 2025 was Parliament actually approving the wider use of AI across all government ministry.
All ministries.
Yeah, and actively pushing to automate public services. And this wasn't some low-level thing. It was championed by Hassan Ibrahim, who's the vice chairman of the Foreign Affairs, Defense, and National Security Committee. So high-level backing.
Okay. And what's the main driver behind that government push? What are they trying to achieve?
Well, based on statements cited in the report from the Parliament Speaker, Ahmed Al-Musallam, they see AI as a, and I quote, powerful tool in improving service quality and increasing government efficiency. So the main goals really are better efficiency, faster services for people, cutting down on red tape, the usual administrative burdens, and importantly, making things more transparent.
So making government work better and be more open.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just making things faster. The report highlights a really interesting application,
Uh-huh.
using AI to fight corruption.
That is interesting. How are they using AI for that?
They've rolled out these sophisticated AI systems for financial analysis within the government. These systems basically watch transactions constantly, looking for weird patterns, anomalies,
Hmm.
anything that might suggest fraud or, mismanagement of funds.
Like a super smart digital auditor?
Kind of, yeah. They directly help with the internal audits of government money, adding another layer of checks. Plus, they generate regular reports flagging areas that might need better financial controls. So you see, it's about strengthening the actual frameworks of governance, not just making things quicker.
That's a really powerful, maybe unexpected use case in government. Okay, let's shift over to the private sector. Are businesses in Bahrain just as keen on AI?
Oh, absolutely. The report shows really strong enthusiasm from Bahraini companies. Businesses big and small are using AI for all sorts of things. Automating tasks, obviously, getting better insights from their data, trying to improve customer experiences, and generally driving innovation in whatever industry they're in.
Is any particular sector leading the charge?
The financial sector is definitely out front, which, kind of makes sense given how much data they handle. We're seeing things like automated trading algorithms, much better fraud detection systems protecting the banks and the customers, and AI chatbots for customer service, making support faster and more personalized.
Any other examples outside of finance?
Yeah, the report mentions a company called GeoGlobe specifically. They're using AI in like website design, trying to make sites more intuitive. And they're also building AI-driven workflow tools to help other businesses streamline how they operate, automate stuff, basically become more efficient. So it's hitting creative and operational sides too.
Definitely sounds like momentum is building everywhere. Now, you mentioned institutions earlier, and the report talks a lot about Tamkeen. What role does Tamkeen play in all this?
Right, Tamkeen, that's Bahrain's labor fund, is, well, it's a crucial player, a real enabler for AI adoption and for building that whole startup scene. They help tech companies in lots of ways. For instance, the report notes they helped 14 Bahraini tech firms get to LEAP 2025 in Saudi Arabia back in February. That's a huge tech event.
Getting that kind of exposure must be massive for smaller companies.
It really is. Connects them with investors, partners, shows them what's happening globally. But Tamkeen does more than just that. They provide direct funding for AI businesses. They run training programs to build up local AI talent. In fact, Parliament even backed a proposal pushing Tamkeen to put more money into AI companies and expand training for Bahraini tech people.
So they're not just helping existing companies, they're actively trying to grow the future talent pool and support new AI startups.
Exactly. It's about creating a whole sustainable ecosystem for AI right there in Bahrain.
Hmm.
Which naturally brings us to education.
Mm.
What are universities and schools doing to make sure people have the right skills for this AI future?
Yeah, that seems vital for the long run. The report did mention some interesting educational initiatives.
It did. The American University of Bahrain, AUBH, they held their second generative AI hackathon. This one focused on using AI for multimedia stuff, using tools like Amazon Web Services, giving students real hands-on experience.
That sounds very practical, very current.
It is. And Bahrain Polytechnic, they've done something really significant too. They partnered with Microsoft and Tamkeen to set up one of the first AI academies in the whole Middle East. It's specifically designed to give students the skills that companies are actually looking for, tackling that need for qualified AI professionals head on.
So it's about building that local talent pipeline, not just importing skills or tech.
Precisely. And it's not just teaching either. Bahraini universities are also deep into AI research themselves.
Oh, really? What kinds of research are they focusing on?
The University 365 report points to several collaborations, universities, government, private companies working together. They're making progress in areas like natural language processing for Arabic, which is obviously super important for the region. Also, computer vision for things like urban planning, using AI to analyze satellite images, that sort of thing. And there's a lot happening in predictive analytics for healthcare, trying to improve diagnoses and treatment plans.
Sounds like very applied research, stuff with direct local relevance.
Exactly. And they're boosting this with conferences and workshops happening throughout 2025. These events bring everyone together, researchers, industry folks, policymakers, to share ideas, talk about the latest findings, maybe spark new collaborations. It creates a real buzz.
Okay, so we have all this innovation, government support, business adoption, education. But what about the rules? Regulation. Is Bahrain putting guardrails in place for AI?
That's a critical piece, isn't it? And yes, Bahrain seems to be taking a pretty balanced approach, trying to encourage the innovation, but also provide oversight. The report mentions that back in April 2024, they actually proposed a specific artificial intelligence regulation law. What was notable was that it was set to be the first in the region to include potential administrative fines. That signals they're serious about having a framework.
But the report said the status of that specific law was unclear.
That's right. The March 2025 report doesn't give a final update on that specific law, but just proposing it shows the intent was there. In the meantime, they do have the Electronic Transactions Law from 2018, which has been amended, that provides the current legal basis for a lot of digital stuff, including AI systems. It covers things like the validity of electronic deals.
So there's an existing foundation, even if the dedicated AI law isn't finalized yet.
Correct. And beyond just laws, they've also put out ethical guidelines for AI. These focus on key things like transparency, making sure you can understand how AI makes decisions, fairness, avoiding bias, accountability, knowing who's responsible, and of course, privacy protection. The idea is to make sure AI develops in a way that's, good for society, ethically sound.
Good to hear the ethical side is being considered. So let's quickly recap some of those sectors where AI is really making a difference. You mentioned finance.
Yes, finance is a big one. AI for risk assessment, fraud detection, those trading algorithms we talked about, and personalized customer service. It's changing how banks operate. Then in government services, think smart document processing, making paperwork faster, or using AI for predictive maintenance on infrastructure, like knowing when a bridge might need repairs before it becomes a problem, all aimed at a better experience for citizens.
And healthcare, too. You mentioned significant potential there.
Huge potential. Better diagnostics, helping doctors plan treatments, making hospital admin more efficient, machine learning, analyzing medical scans, predictive analytics, identifying patients at high risk. It's really promising for patient outcomes.
And we have to mention Al-Munther again, that's sadly
Yeah.
a very specific high-tech application.
Definitely. Al-Munther is such a strong symbol of their capability. That real-time image analysis using AI, developed entirely by Bahraini expertise. It really showcases their progress in space tech and advanced computing.
With all this activity, it must be boosting investment in the economy overall, right?
For sure. The University 365 report points to growing investment in Bahrain's AI scene for both the government and private investors. Government focus is bringing in money for infrastructure and R&D. And venture capital firms, angel investors, they're seeing the potential in Bahraini AI startups and providing that crucial early funding.
Creates a virtuous cycle, yeah. Investment fuels innovation, which attracts more investment.
Exactly. And the economic benefits are widespread. AI boosts productivity, cuts costs for businesses, makes them more competitive. Plus, it's opening up totally new business models, new ways to make money, especially around data services and digital solutions.
And you mentioned MP Dr. Saror talking about new jobs for Bahrainis.
Yes, that's a key point. Dr. Saror highlighted how AI could create jobs in fields like cybersecurity, data analysis, AI and finance, smart manufacturing areas where maybe previously they relied more on outside expertise. It's about creating high-value jobs for locals.
So putting it all together, how does Bahrain stack up competitively in the region? What are its advantages?
Well, it has several strengths. That forward-thinking regulatory approach helps. Its location is strategic, strong ICT infrastructure is already in place, and that consistent government backing is huge. Also, being smaller can sometimes mean being more agile. They can potentially adapt policies or launch initiatives faster than larger neighbors.
But they do face serious competition from those larger neighbors like the UAE and Saudi Arabia.
Oh, absolutely. The report is clear about that. Countries like the UAE and Saudi Arabia have, frankly, deeper pockets. The UAE appointed an AI minister way back in 2017, showing early commitment. So for Bahraini AI companies, the strategy probably needs to be about finding niches, developing specialized solutions that can work regionally or globally, not just trying to compete head-on across the board.
Makes sense. And what about the wider impact on society? Things like jobs and making sure everyone benefits.
That's definitely on the agenda. There's a clear understanding that AI will change the workforce. So there's a big push for reskilling and upskilling programs. Like Dr. Saror said, practical training is key to help people move into these new AI-related jobs. And there are efforts around digital inclusion, too, trying to make sure the benefits of AI reach everyone and don't create a bigger gap between the digital haves and have-nots.
Okay, so looking ahead then, what's the outlook for AI in Bahrain, say near term and maybe longer term? What trends should we watch?
Near term, say 2025 to 2030, the momentum looks really strong. Expect more AI in government, continued support from Tamkeen, more growth in those AI education programs, but there will be challenges to navigate. Things like data sovereignty, who owns and controls the data, algorithmic bias is always a concern, and just the broader ethical questions as AI gets more powerful. On the flip side, there are huge opportunities emerging. Think quantum computing, new types of computer hardware like neuromorphic chips, even more advanced natural language processing. The long-term vision towards 2030 and beyond is really for Bahrain to be seen as a key regional AI hub, a place that attracts international tech companies, grows its own successful startups, and becomes a testbed for cutting-edge AI solutions. It all ties back to those Vision 2030 goals, diversifying the economy, building a knowledge-based future.
Right. So just to wrap this up for our listeners, this deep dive into the University 365 report really shows a very active and fast-moving AI scene in Bahrain.
Definitely. You go from that foundational vision, Vision 2030, right through to concrete innovations like Al-Munter, plus the strategic investments, Bahrain is making serious moves to become an AI leader in the Gulf.
And hopefully, this discussion has given you, our listener, a good sense of Bahrain's AI goals and what they've achieved so far, highlighting some really interesting bits like that satellite and the anti-corruption AI use.
It really is exciting to see this kind of focus and innovation in the region, and Bahrain's path offers, I think, valuable lessons and maybe partnership opportunities for the global tech world, too.
Absolutely. And this report we've been discussing, Bahrain's AI Landscape 2025, it's just one example of the kind of detailed analysis University 365 puts out there. They really aim to make these complex, fast-changing fields easier to grasp.
Exactly. So if you found this useful and want to explore more reports like this across different sectors, we definitely suggest visiting university-365.com. You can check out their publications, and becoming a member gives you access to even more in-depth knowledge.
Great. And one final question to leave you thinking about. Considering Bahrain's proactive stance, what other countries or regions out there do you think show similar promise as emerging AI hubs? And what are the key ingredients, do you think, for their success in this really transformative area? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.